October 1953, 10 train cars are crossing America, back and forth, over and over, not delivering anything, just running, burning fuel for one reason, to keep their refrigeration units alive. Because inside them is 260 tons of frozen turkey, a Thanksgiving order gone catastrophically wrong, and there is not one warehouse freezer in the entire country big enough to hold it. A company is about to go bankrupt over unsellable turkey, and the man responsible has 30 days to make it disappear or lose everything. What he does next sounds insane on paper. He doesn't sell the turkey. He doesn't dump it. He repackages America's dinner itself. Within a year, that disaster turns into 10 million sales. Within a decade, it quietly kills the family dinner table as we knew it and teaches an entire country to eat facing a screen instead of each other. You've probably eaten his invention this month. This is how one shipping mistake accidentally reprogrammed how America eats. Let's rewind. The company was Swanson, one of America's biggest poultry producers.
The American appetite.
And that mountain of rotting turkey wasn't even really their fault. It was the leftover wreckage of a war. During World War II, the U.S. government had leaned hard on food companies to mass produce and freeze meat for soldiers overseas. Freezing technology pioneered decades earlier by a man named Clarence Birdseye, who'd watched Inuit fishermen flash freeze fish in the Arctic, had finally scaled up into a real industrial machine. So when the war ended, the machine didn't stop. Swanson kept freezing turkey by the ton, chasing wartime-size demand. In a country that had gone back to peacetime portions, nobody asked the one question that mattered: does anyone actually want to eat this? And the honest answer, in 1953, was not really. Home freezers were the size of a shoebox. Grocery store freezer cases were rare, expensive, and half empty. Frozen food had a reputation as the food of last resort, mushy, gray, forgettable, something you ate when you had no other choice. So picture it, a company sitting on 250,000 pounds of turkey nobody wants, in a country not built to store it, with a clock running out. That's not a business problem anymore. That's an emergency. This is where the story splits into legend. Version 1, the official one. A Swanson salesman named Jerry Thomas was on a business trip and noticed something on his Pan Am flight, a metal tray, neatly divided into little compartments, one for meat, one for vegetables, one for dessert, airline food. And somewhere over the clouds, he had the idea, what if families could eat like this at home? Version 2, the one Swanson's own factory workers told for decades afterward, is less romantic. They say it was Gilbert and Clark Swanson, the brothers running the company, sitting down with their staff and asking a blunt question: how do we get rid of all this turkey, fast? The compartmentalized tray wasn't inspired by an airplane, it was just the most efficient way to portion out meat, stuffing, and vegetables without them turning to soup in the oven. Nobody knows for certain which version is true. Swanson never fully settled it. But here's what actually made the idea brilliant, and it has nothing to do with the tray itself. They didn't just freeze a meal, they designed a ritual. Turkey, cornbread stuffing, and gravy in one compartment, buttered peas in the second, sweet potatoes in the third, 25 minutes in the oven, no pots to scrub, no pans to soak, no mess left behind. And then came the one decision that changed everything. They didn't call it a frozen dinner. Nobody wants to buy something with the word frozen stamped on the front in 1953. They called it a TV dinner. Here's the part that turns this from a good idea into a cultural earthquake. The timing was almost unfairly perfect. In 1953, television was tearing through American living rooms like nothing before it. In just 7 years, ownership had rocketed from almost nothing to over half of American households. Families were physically rearranging their furniture, dragging couches and armchairs away from the dinner table to face this new glowing box instead. The old ritual was already cracking before Swanson ever showed up. Everyone seated together, a home-cooked meal, real conversation. That world was quietly dying in living rooms across the country. Swanson didn't fight that shift. They branded it. The box was designed to look like a television set, complete with a little screen showing the food inside. The name itself was an instruction manual. Cook it, carry it to the couch, watch your favorite show while you eat. No table required. No goodbye guilt. They priced it at 98 cents, cheap enough to feel like a treat, fast enough to feel modern instead of lazy. And it landed inside a much bigger wave. Post-war America was falling in love with convenience everywhere at once: the dishwasher, the automatic washing machine, the drive-through window. Suburbs were sprawling outward, and millions of women who'd spent the war years working factory jobs were now back home juggling children, housework, and the exhausting, invisible labor of cooking 3 meals a day from scratch with nobody calling it labor at all. The TV dinner wasn't really selling food, it was selling permission. Permission to put your feet up. Permission to skip the performance of a perfect home-cooked meal just for one night. Swanson's own executives braced for modest sales. They projected maybe 5,000 units in the first year. They sold 10 million. Once that door was open, everybody kicked it wider. Competitors flooded in: Fast Banquet, Morton, Stouffer's, each one racing to freeze the next great American meal and get it onto a tray. Grocery stores scrambled to expand their freezer aisles almost overnight. Home freezer sales climbed right alongside the boxes. But the real impact was never really about the food. It quietly rewrote family life itself, the shared dinner table for generations. The anchor of the American household started to lose its grip. Meals stopped being something families did together and became something each person did near each other. Tray and lap, eyes on the screen. Eating and watching television fused into one single act, a habit most of us, frankly, never fully unlearned. And it planted the seed for something much bigger, an entire modern industry built on one promise: microwave meals, meal kit boxes, fast casual takeout apps, every single one of them selling the exact same thing Swanson sold: first, less time cooking, more time doing whatever you'd actually rather be doing. That 1953 turkey disaster didn't just bail Swanson out of a warehouse full of rotting meat. It quietly wrote the blueprint for how an entire country would eat for the next 70 years. So the next time you peel the film off a frozen meal and it's ready before the microwave even beeps twice, remember what you're actually holding. Not just dinner. The tail end of a chain reaction that started with 10 train cars circling America, refusing to let 260 tons of turkey rot, and stumbling, almost by accident, onto the one thing Americans actually wanted more than a home-cooked meal: their evenings back. Swanson promised convenience. What they actually delivered was quieter and bigger than that: a permanent rewiring of how families spent their time, one aluminum tray at a time. If this kind of small object, massive consequences history is your thing, subscribe. This is exactly the kind of story I dig up every week.